Okay, so today we're going to be discussing Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang, which is a self-pub book that has been getting a lot of praise amongst reviewers lately. And oh my goodness, is it worth it? This video is going to be spoiler-free, so hang out with me even if you haven't read it yet. This is a self-published adult fantasy that ties into a middle grade self-published fantasy series that you don't need to read the middle grade series in order to read the adult fantasy. I actually buddy read this over on my public Discord server with a bunch of people, and I don't think anybody has read the middle grade series except for me. I've read the first book of the middle grade series years ago. The author sent it to me, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't continue on with the series. So it can be read on its own because people really enjoyed it, not having read the series that it ties in with, but if you want more, it's there. This is a standalone, which I'm actually pretty mad about. So we follow a woman who, when she was younger, she went off to this school to train to fight, and she was very skilled at it, but now she has agreed to an arranged marriage by her parents to a man that she doesn't know, and she's decided to take the position of what she believes is her intended role, which is a submissive wife to an important person in their culture. And she's changed locations, which means that the culture is also very different from what she grew up in and what she's always known. And then we also follow her son. So we have two perspectives here. And there's a lot of action in this book. There's a lot of political maneuvering. That seems like the wrong way. I think that that'll set the wrong expectations. There's quite a bit of political stuff happening here, but probably not in the way that you would think when I say that. Absolutely tons of different cultures explored and discussed, a lot of world building, a very cool magic system that looks familiar but is done in a really unique way. It's a the characters are very, very honest and feel very real, and because of that, there is tons of emotional impact in this book. It starts out pretty exposition heavy, which I usually am not a fan of, but I didn't really mind in this book because I was so interested in the cultures that we were learning about and so interested in the characters right off the bat. I enjoyed them, which is kind of difficult for me because I'm such a character-focused reader that if the characters aren't very intentionally unique and honest and real right from the start, it usually takes me a little while to connect, which I think is why the beginning of this book worked so well for me, because I think that Wang does an incredible job of making her characters really, really, really real and nuanced and just very, very well written. So even though it was so exposition heavy in the beginning and not very action heavy in the beginning, I still was really, really invested in it from the very start because of those characters and because of the building up and the establishing of the culture and the expectations because of that culture. But then things take off. So if you're not as much of a character reader as I am, just push through that beginning because, oh my goodness, do things take off? And I have a lot of things that I could praise about this book. I forgot to say it's spoiler-free. Corey added at the beginning that I said it was spoiler-free. Okay, how do I do this? How do I talk about this book? I actually don't know. Not only are the different familial and imperial dynamics in this story very, very interesting, the way she lays it out, but the action within this story, and there's a lot of it, the action within this story is so well written. I'm the type of reader where I'm pleased when action is well written, and if it's not really fantastic, then I'm probably not that interested in it. I don't need it to go on for a really long time. I also don't need it to be abrupt. I guess I can be pretty picky, and ooh, she did great. But not only that, not only are there very real stakes within the battles that take place, but this author's ability to write the aftermath of battle it blew me away, because the different characters are responding in different ways, and it's all so honest. This is not a light, fluffy story. This is not an easy read. I certainly wouldn't call it grimdark, but I would say that if you're sensitive to more painful topics, which I'll have content warnings in a pinned message at the bottom of this if you are interested, they're there. It's there. I think that one of the things that I was the most impressed with this author with, though, was her handling of these topics. She did not hold back. She really showed the reality of the kind of situation that these characters are in. But she still managed to handle it all with such extreme nuance. I have said this in other videos. I am not a fan of the writing style of, I want to create impact here, so I'm going to bash you over the head with it. I'm going to give you pages and pages and pages of brutal description of very painful things. I don't care for that. Wang is one of those authors that is able to she's able to depict incredibly painful, difficult scenarios, but handle it with the nuance where it doesn't need to be expanded on for a long time. She can hit on it with the perfect amount of impact. She puts just the right amount of pressure where we're not made to dwell in the worst descriptions of it for a long period of time. We're left to dwell in the emotional impact of it. She can take a really brutal thing and make it so that I feel every ounce of it without shoving it down my throat. I know different readers are different and different readers like different writing styles, but that's me. This is exactly how I want these sort of things to be handled. She handled them with sensitivity and nuance without pulling any punches, and I loved it. But don't take that the wrong way, because I promise you these scenes are very, very, very hard to read, and there were instances where I had to stop reading because it was a bit much, but in the best way. Again, I'm fixating on this a lot, but I want to keep going with it. The emotional impact in this story is phenomenal. There were scenes where I, like I said, had to stop because it was too much on my little heart to deal with what these characters were dealing with. Their honest emotions and reactions were so real that I felt them in myself. But not only that, there were also scenes where I was so furious at characters and the decisions they made and the way they handled situations. None of these characters are perfect. They're all very, very flawed, and their emotions and their flaws and their wrong perceptions of certain things are very honestly written. They're not written to be characters that we look up to all the time. Sometimes they're just written to be real. Misaki has got to be one of my new favorite protagonists, the female protagonist that we follow. She is so strong, so flawed, and her perceptions shift throughout the novel in ways that I admire so much. Not only that, but Misaki is in a really, really difficult situation throughout the entirety of this book, and I'm trying to say this clearly enough that people who have read it will know what I'm talking about, and people that haven't read it, I'm not spoiling anything. So there is a particular character arc for a side character that I found so ridiculously satisfying and that I did not expect to be this satisfying. A character that at the beginning of the story I had certain feelings about, and then watching that arc happen, it was a complete shift, but in such a deserved way, learning more of the background of the character and seeing that character learn and grow and change. It didn't feel like your standard arc. It felt like the most honest, human, this character is so flawed and I so dislike the way they're handling their situation, to I'm so happy with the way the relationships ended up. Do you know what I'm talking about? We didn't go from one extreme to the other. We went from one extreme to a really good first step. And I'm so pleased at the honesty of that, and I'm so pleased with the honesty of how we got there. That's the best I can do. I'm just so impressed with this author's ability to write characters this well, and to write the way they're interacting with their situations and the way they're interacting with their worlds and the honesty of their flaws this well. I'm so hyperfixated on the emotion and the characters because this is the thing that's really blown me out of the water, but I don't want to do a disservice to this story because the plot itself is also really unique. There's a lot of things that I thought I knew where it was going, but it's such a fresh take on those things that it felt like a wholly new concept, even though it's not. Just like any other story, it's building on tropes, but it's taking those tropes as a baseline and creating something new from it, and I loved it. The pacing, I really enjoyed. Like I said, the beginning's really exposition heavy. I didn't mind it, but then from then on out, I really liked the way this author paced this story. She took breathing moments and her action was incredible. Her action sequences are so good, guys. The ending, I think, is the one place where I feel a little bit like I could have used a little bit something else in it. I know that the ending has been kind of, some people love it, some people feel a little bit mixed about it. I'm probably in the mixed category, but honestly, it doesn't detract from this book. I respect an author that says, I have enough content for one book, therefore you get one book. I really, really, really respect that. But ma'am, could you figure out some more content? Because I'm very upset that this is a standalone. And I really like standalones, especially fantasy standalones, because it's really nice to be able to dip into one world and then dip into another. I love fantasy standalones, and I'm so mad that this is a standalone. I need more. Not only because the story itself was good, but because of this author's ability to write it. It's so readable and easily digestible, yet so nuanced and intricate and fresh while still being familiar. I don't know how else to describe it. I just really loved it. Her ability to honestly change my mind on certain situations and characters is incredible. Her ability to write the impact of scenes, first of all, the honesty of certain scenes and then the impact of those scenes in the aftermath is untouchable. I'm trying not to overhype, but I'm sorry, I have overhyped. I really enjoyed this book. I've been reading a lot of books lately that I have enjoyed, but that haven't blown me away. This book blew me away. I really enjoyed this book, and I really recommend it. This is probably not the best review I've done because it was basically just a rambling gush. Apologies, but also I hope if it sounds like a story you might enjoy, that you'll pick it up. I tried really hard to keep it spoiler-free while also being able to hopefully explain things in a way that people who have read it will know exactly which scenes I'm talking about. I am so impressed with this story, and I'm hurting that it's over. I genuinely am. I'm hurting that it's over. So I hope you'll read it too, so that we can talk about it some more, because wow. Again, I'm sorry for overhyping. I don't want you to go in thinking this is going to be the new best book I've ever read, because that will almost certainly disappoint you, because no book can ever live up to that much hype. But I hope that you'll give it a go, because I really, really enjoyed this. And I will absolutely be reading more from this author. I probably still won't continue on with the middle grade series that I started a couple years ago, because middle grade just typically isn't my thing. But even though it's not my thing, I still really enjoyed the first book that I read of that series years ago, and it's still stuck with me. I still remember a lot about it. This author, she's just really good. Anyway, please continue to chat with me about this in the comments. There will be an affiliate link in the description if you do decide to pick this book up. Check out my Patreon if you want to buddy read stuff with me, or the public server where we buddy read this book. All is linked in the description. Again, chat with me more about this in the comments. I need it. I need the discussion. I post videos every Tuesday through Friday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.